I have been selling real estate in Fort Lauderdale for 17 years. Over 1,000 homes sold, over 500 million in sales, and I still study this market every single day like I have something to prove. Not because I need to, because that is what this work actually requires. Most people think they understand what a real estate agent does. They think it is showings and open houses and a sign in the yard. And yes, those things actually happen. But the work that actually determines whether a seller walks away with the number they deserve, that happens before the home ever goes to the market. It happens in the analysis, in the strategy, in the relationships, in the systems. And it happens because the person that you hired either built their business around getting you results or they did not. They were just winging it. Today, I want to tell you exactly why I built my business the way I did, the decisions that I made, the things that I learned the hard way, and why the way we operate at the MPH team is completely different from what most homeowners experience when they list their home. I'm Lourdes Maestres, and this is how it actually happened. I came to South Florida in 1997. I have lived here, raised my kids here, built everything I have here. This is not a market I moved into for opportunity. This is home. I got into real estate in 2009, right in the middle of the financial crisis. I did not choose real estate because it seemed like a great opportunity. I chose it because the economy had collapsed. And the truth is, I lost my job. And in that moment, I decided I was never going to be anyone's employee. So I rebuilt in the hardest possible market you could imagine: foreclosures and short sales. People losing homes they had owned for decades, properties that had been worth $800,000 2 years earlier that were now selling for $300,000. Sellers could not afford to close. Buyers could not get financing. At that time, lenders wouldn't even return your calls. Every deal was a negotiation in multiple directions at the same time. I was doing a lot of short sales for clients who were in the same position I was in personally. I went through bankruptcy myself. I sold all my properties at a loss. I knew exactly what those homeowners were feeling because I was living it at the same time. This is not a detail I share to make you feel sorry for me. I share it because it is the reason this business runs the way it does. When you have sat across from someone who's losing their home and you have been in that same chair yourself, you learn very quickly that this job, it's not about transactions. It's about people's lives, their financial stability, their plans for retirement, their ability to take care of their families. And they deserve the truth, the right strategy, and someone who's going to fight for them, not just someone who's going to tell them what they want to hear so they can get a commission check. That is where the honesty comes from, not from a brand, from experience. I also learned something in those early years that most real estate agents never learn, or maybe learn it too late. I learned that the market does not care what you think your home is worth. It does not care what you paid for. It does not care what you need to walk away with. The market is what it is. And the job of a good real estate agent is to help you understand that reality clearly, not shield you from it, so you can make the best possible decision with that information in front of you. That mindset shaped everything. The way I present pricing, the way I have difficult conversations, the way I structure a listing strategy when the market shifts, it all comes from those first years of doing this work in the hardest conditions possible, where there was no margin for wishful thinking. By the time the market recovered, I had built something from almost nothing. And I knew that whatever I built next was going to be built the way I would have wanted to be treated as a client when I had everything on the line. For the first 10 years, I did everything alone. Every call, every showing, every negotiation, every open house, me, my car, and a 3x5 in the car with a phone number and a name. And that was my system. And I was good at it. I had a strong referral network. I had repeat clients. I had built a really good reputation in my market that I earned one transaction at a time. But the truth is, I hit a ceiling. Not because I ran out of skills, but because I ran out of hours. And when you run out of hours as a solo real estate agent, the people who suffer are your clients. They do not get the best. They get whatever you have left after a 14-hour day. A return call that comes 2 days later, a showing request that gets pushed because you are already with someone else, a detail at the closing table that got missed because nobody was tracking it. That is not a system. That is one person trying to hold everything together with good intentions and not enough bandwidth. I refuse to let that be the standard. So in 2019, I made the decision to build a team, not to grow for the sake of growing, not to have more signs on the yards, but because I realized that doing this alone meant I could not consistently deliver the level of service that the sellers at this level actually deserve. But I want to be transparent about something. Building a team is not just hiring a bunch of people, it's building a system. It's deciding very clearly what standard you're going to hold every person on that team to, and then being willing to make changes when that standard is not being met. It is documenting how things are done so that quality is not compromised or dependent on who had a good week or and who did not. It is creating accountability at every level, from how a listing file is opened to how a closing is confirmed. That took time and it took some hard decisions. But what came out of it is something I'm very genuinely proud of. Today, the MPH team has an operations manager, a transaction coordinator, a 3-person in house marketing department, a full time executive assistant who oversees every single deal from listing to close, and 9 buyer's agents who make sure that every person who calls to see one of our homes gets an in person showing fast. Not next week, fast. Because in this market, a serious buyer who cannot get a showing in 24 to 48 hours moves on. They find the next property. And you lost a prospect who might have been your buyer. So when you hire me, you're not hiring one person, you're hiring a system I built specifically to make sure nothing falls through the cracks and nothing gets left to chance. You're hiring a team that has been doing this together long enough to anticipate problems before they happen. And you're hiring a marketing operation that is working on your property, positioning from day one, not after the first week of disappointing results. Quick note before we keep going. 2 things. First, if you are a real estate agent watching this and you have a client thinking about selling or buying in Fort Lauderdale, reach out to me directly. We take great care of your referrals and we take even better care of your clients. Second, if you're watching this from outside of Fort Lauderdale and you are thinking about selling your home wherever you are, we can help with that too. Through our network, we can connect you with a trusted real estate advisor in your market who operates at the same standards that we do here. Just reach out and we will make sure you're in the right hands. Either way, the link is in the description below. We're here. People who have worked with me before will tell you 3 things: marketing, systems, and honesty. Let me tell you what each of those actually mean, because those words get thrown around a lot in this industry, and most of the time they mean absolutely nothing. They are words people use in listing presentations because they sound good, not because they can back them up. I can back them up. When I say marketing, I do not mean putting your home on Zillow and hoping someone calls. I mean a complete strategy built around your specific property, your specific market, and the specific buyers we're trying to reach. That means professional photography, video that actually shows the home the way it deserves to be shown, not a quick shoot by someone who also does headshots. A visual production built around your home, best features, and the lifestyle it represents. That means a social strategy with real reach, not a post that gets seen by the same 400 people who already follow you on social media. I'm talking about a paid media strategy that puts your home in front of buyers who are actively in the market for exactly what you're selling. That means an email campaign that goes out to our database, to our Compass network, and with agents we have built relationships with over 17 years in this market. I invest in promoting your home because I know the difference looks like between a listing that sits and a listing that sells. And I can show you the before and after. I'm also a coach with the Tom Ferry organization, which means I am connected to hundreds of thousands of real estate agents across the United States, Canada, and Europe. That network is not decoration. That is your home being seen by real estate agents in New York, Chicago, Seattle, California, North Carolina, and markets all over Florida who have buyers looking for exactly what you're selling, buyers who are relocated, buyers who are expanding their portfolio, and buyers who have the capital and are looking for the right property right now. When I say systems, I mean everything is tracked, documented, and repeatable. My team does not operate from memory and good intentions. We operate on standard operating procedures that make sure every single listing gets the same level of attention, whether it's day 1 or day 90. That means you, as a homeowner, as a seller, you know exactly where you stand at every point in the process. It means nothing falls through the cracks between contract and closing. It means when a buyer agent calls with a question, someone in my team has an answer immediately, not in 3 days, not after they have to check with somebody, immediately. And when I say honesty, I mean I'm going to tell you the truth about your home, about your price, and your market, even when it is not what you want to hear, especially then. I have been up until 11 o'clock at night doing a full market analysis for a seller, only to call them the next day and tell them, I'm sorry, I cannot help you right now. You're going to lose money unless you're prepared to bring money to the table on this sale. I cannot put my name on that. Most agents would have taken that listing anyways, signed the paperwork, let it sit there for months, and eventually convinced the seller to drop the price to where it should have been from the beginning. And in the process, that seller lost time, carrying costs, and negotiating leverage. They can never get back. I would rather lose the business than give you bad advice. One of the most common phone calls I get is from homeowners whose home did not sell with another agent. And when I look at those files every single time, the story is the same. The home was overpriced coming out of the gate. The marketing was just surface level, and nobody had a real plan for what to do when the first 30 days passed without an offer. The agent disappeared. The homeowner lowered the price. The agent came back. The price came down again. And eventually, the listing either expired or sold for far less than it should have. Here's what most homeowners do not understand. In this market, the first 2 weeks of a listing are the most valuable. That is when the most serious buyers are paying attention. That is when agents who have been waiting for the right property bring their clients. That is when the energy is at its peak. That window does not come back when a home is priced incorrectly from day 1. Even if the price comes down later, the market has already formed an opinion. Buyers wonder, what is wrong with it? The fact that it has been sitting on the market becomes the story. Agents who showed it once do not bring their clients back. The listing goes stale before it ever had a real chance. And then the seller has a choice: reduce the price enough to overcome the stigma, or take the home off the market entirely and relist later. Neither of those is a good option, and neither of them would have been necessary if the pricing strategy had been right from the beginning. I have done over 600 comparative market analysis. I know this market at a level of detail that allows me to defend a price, not just set one. When I tell a homeowner what their home is worth, I can show you exactly why. Absorption rate, months of supply, price per square foot, comparable sales, not just in your zip code, but on their specific street with their specific finishes and their specific condition, days on market for competing properties, the difference between properties that sold in the first 30 days and properties that sat, and why. I can show you where the market is headed, not just where it has been. Because in luxury real estate, pricing to recent past when the market is shifting can cost you just as much as overpricing it in a strong market. That is how I price homes. That is how I defend the price when a buyer's agent tries to negotiate. And that is how I get to the closing table with the number I set at the beginning or something close to it, rather than watching it erode over a 6 month listing period. If you are finding this helpful, there is a lot more where this came from. Subscribe to the channel, and every week you will get real market insights, real seller strategies, and an honest look at what it actually takes to sell a luxury home in the city of Fort Lauderdale. No fluff, just what you need to know. I want to be direct about something because I think there is a lot of confusion about what a listed agent actually does for their compensation. You are not paying for someone to put a sign in your yard and upload photos to the MLS. Anyone can do that, genuinely, anyone. That is the minimum. That is the floor, not the ceiling. What you're paying for is pricing expertise, someone who has done over 600 comparative market analysis and knows this market at a granular level, not someone who ran a quick Zillow search and picked a number that felt optimistic. What you're paying for is a marketing strategy that reaches buyers beyond your neighborhood and beyond your city. That builds genuine demand, that creates the kind of competitive interest that protects your price instead of eroding it. What you're paying for is negotiating expertise. Someone who has been in hundreds of negotiations and knows how to protect your number when an offer comes in low. Someone who knows when to hold and when to move, who understands buyer psychology and knows how to use it. What you're paying for is the system and the team to make sure every detail between contract and closing is managed without having to chase anyone down. In luxury real estate, the closing process is complex. There are inspections, appraisal, title issues, financing contingency, HOA approvals, and many other moving pieces that can derail a deal in the final stretch. The team that handles that process makes a real difference in whether you close on time or close at all. Personally, I manage around 30 luxury listings every single year. I only take on homes I genuinely believe I can sell, and I only accept to work with sellers that are aligned with me on price and strategy. The alignment matters. When a seller and their agent are not on the same page about price, it is the seller who pays the price. My team closes an additional 80 transactions per year. Alongside that, we also have a rental division managing between 40 to 50 traditional and seasonal rentals in the city of Fort Lauderdale every year. This is a full operations, not a part-time business between other things. We serve every price point, but luxury is where I personally lead every single time. The difference between the right real estate agent and the wrong one on a $5 million home is not a small number. It's the difference between a sale that closes at full value and a home that expires after 6 months and costs you time, carrying costs, and momentum you can never fully recover. That is not a hypothetical. I have seen it happen to sellers who called me after the fact, who said, I wish I had talked to you first. I do not say that to scare you. I say it because that conversation is worth having before you sign any agreement. If you're thinking about selling your home in Fort Lauderdale at the luxury level, here are the questions you should be asking any agent before you sign any contract. How many luxury transactions have you closed in the specific market in the last 12 months? Not sales volume overall, transactions. In this market recently, volume numbers can be misleading. One $20 million sale does not tell you whether or not someone understands the $3 million to $5 million segment you're actually in. How do you determine the list price and what data are you using? Ask them to walk you through it. A strong real estate agent can explain their pricing in detail. If the answer is vague or they arrive at a number without showing their work, that should concern you. What does your marketing actually look like beyond photography and MLS? Who are you reaching and how? Ask to see examples of marketing. Ask about their paid media strategy. Ask about their network. And ask specifically, how will you reach buyers who are not already looking in this area? Can you show me your listing presentation? A serious real estate agent has one. It tells you how they think, how they communicate, and whether they have a real strategy or a standard approach they use for everything. And this one, most people never ask, what happens if we do not get an offer within the first 60 to 90 days? What is the strategy? What changes? This question matters. It tells you whether the real estate agent has actually thought past the launch. A lot of real estate agents have a great plan for week one and no plan for week 6 or week 10. You want someone who already thought through the contingencies, who knows what adjustments to make and when. A serious real estate agent will have a clear, confident answer to every single one of those questions. Not a pitch, an answer. If they hesitate, if they're vague, if they're more focused on telling you what you want to hear and what you need to hear, that is your answer. The agent you hire to sell a 5 million, a 10 million, or a $20 million home will either protect your asset or cost you far more than their compensation. This is not a decision to make based on who has the nicest flyer or who your neighbor used. Choose carefully. I have built this business the way I did because I have seen what happens when it is built any other way. I have been the seller who needed someone to tell her the truth. I have been the agent who had to deliver that truth when nobody else would. And I have been in this market long enough to know that the sellers who get the best results are the ones who choose the right partner before the home ever goes into the market. Not the agent with the most yard signs, not the agent who promised the highest price, the agent who showed up prepared, told the truth, and had a real plan from day one. So if you are thinking about selling your home in Fort Lauderdale, whether you have a home in Las Olas Isles, Coral Ridge, Rio Vista, or anywhere in the city, and you want a straight conversation about where your home stands right now, reach out to me. No pressure, no pitch, just a real conversation with someone who has been doing this for 17 years and still treats every single listing like it is the most important one I've ever had. Because to the person selling it, it is. Before you go, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us, what is the one thing you wish you knew before you listed your home? Or if you're thinking about selling, what is your biggest question right now? I read every single comment and I will answer to you personally.